Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. Today, more questions from Bob Mottram. Bob asked, associated with the communication channels that I use with the Noble Ape simulation, historically there was a Noble Ape podcast, and that kind of fell by the wayside, although I'll be putting these question-answer sessions into the Noble Ape podcast, and I'd still maintain a feed where if something comes out audio-related, that's Noble Ape-related, I'll put it in the Noble Ape podcast, which is called Ape Reality. Bob also asked about blogs. I'm kind of worn out with blogs. I started writing a blog about 13, 14 years ago, and although they work for communication through some people, I don't really think they have the same kind of, interactability that things like YouTube have. And ultimately, if I was going to go into any media direction with regards to Noble Ape, it would be YouTube, because I think that certainly would get another generation, a new generation, interested in the simulation. But returning to Bob's questions associated with graphics, obviously things need to be more graphically compelling in order to get that component working. So, it is what it is. Bob asked also with regards to Facebook. There's a Biota Facebook presence. To a secondary extent, there's a Noble Ape Facebook presence. But really, again, my time is limited. I prefer to use it writing code and these kind of things. And probably more than a decade ago, I made the decision to spend more time actively working on simulation and less time trying to outwardly publicize it, with the view that when people discover the simulation, if they had a particular interest, they'd get in contact with me. And that utilized more time that I could spend in actually writing code rather than, working on PR-related stuff. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't like to have someone who assists with that, and Bob has obviously offered and has historically provided blog content. But for now, I think blogs are, more introverted, basically, and probably are as much written for, the people that write the blogs as for potential readers. Bob asks, associated with whether I will stick with ApeScript in the future. ApeScript was a language that I wrote for the Noble Ape simulation as a scripting language, fundamentally designed to represent, time deltas. So you write, what happens in a specific time delta with the view that the ape is in an existing state, asleep, awake, hungry, eating, swimming, this kind of stuff. And ApeScript reacts to the state that the ape is in, the conditions around the ape, and then makes state change choices based on, environmental factors and, whether the ape's full or this kind of stuff, or, whether the ape sees another ape or these kind of things. So it was very much a kind of DT scripting language, and I think it served its purpose I think it's been around since 2005, and I've done some minor rewrites of various bits and pieces, but it remains basically in that form. Moving to Java and JavaScript and moving to a Noble Ape server model, obviously these languages have their own people that know the languages, and rather than ApeScript where people have to learn how to write in ApeScript and various concepts, if I write the simulation in Java, then there are going to be an existing group of Java developers that just understand the interface and can work with it in that form. And in that regard, I think ApeScript has an interesting life. It's time to be put out to pasture in some regard, and probably languages like Java and JavaScript will be used as ApeScript was intended to be used going forward. But with the view that these languages have existing interfaces, and particular new simulation interfaces can be written, and there are just a lot more JavaScript and Java coders out there than there are ApeScript coders. So I think it's performed its duties, but really now it's being put out to pasture. It can be used for a wide variety of things. There's certainly a lot of projects associated with standalone ApeScript that I've floated and shown to various people. So if anyone ever wanted to use ApeScript, it would be there. But, within the Noble Ape simulation, it's an interesting offshoot, one of many interesting offshoots, but probably not going to be in the core of the simulation going forwards. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.